Uh, yes, I have two questions for Stênio, and both of them involve the letter itself. And my first question is, why did you have Raimundo wait 50 years to look into the contents of the letter? I almost had a feeling as I read it that he was afraid what the letter said and wanted to put off finding out what it said. And my second question is, as a reader, one waits for the big reveal when the letter is opened and it's read and we know what the contents are. And you took us to the very end of the novel. He opened the envelope, he unfolded the pages, and we don't know what he read. Can you explain all of those two questions?
Claro, Dom.
Sure, Don.
Só quero falar antes que
But before I
são perguntas
answer,
que
I
sempre
want to
aparecem
say that
nos
these
clubes de
questions
leitura que eu
always come
participo.
up in all reading
A
clubs
carta é
and book clubs
realmente
I'm part of. The letter
esse
is indeed
personagem,
a character
ela mesma é um
itself,
personagem.
is in itself a character of the book.
Com relação à primeira
Well, as to
pergunta,
your
por que que o
first
Raimundo
question,
esperou?
why did Raimundo wait for so
Concordo com
long?
você, por
I
medo,
agree with you.
medo de
I think
descobrir
it was out of
o
fear,
que estaria escrito ali,
fear of
porque
finding out
como
what is
a
written
última
in the
frase
letter.
do capítulo que a gente leu, a
The last
carta guardava
sentence of
uma
the
vida
chapter
inteira.
we just read, the letter has in
Então,
it
mesmo
a
que
lifetime.
ele
So
pedisse para
even
alguém ler,
if he
logo
asked
depois que saiu de
someone to
casa,
read the letter for
ele
him
podia
after he
descobrir que ele
left
perdeu
home,
uma vida inteira que tinha pela frente.
he might find out he would lose a
Então,
whole lifetime ahead of
esse
him.
medo, com certeza,
So yeah,
assim
fear,
como também vergonha,
certainly,
foram
as well as
foram
shame.
dois pilares assim
I
que
think
a
these
gente
are
se ligou,
two pillars
utilizadas por ele para viver durante muito tempo.
used by Raimundo to
E
continue
com
with
certeza
life.
a relação que ele
And
mantém com a
certainly,
carta foi baseada
his
muito nisso.
relationship with the letter is
Em
very
segundo
much based
lugar, eu
on
acho
that.
que existe o aspecto da
There's
intimidade da carta,
also the intimacy
né? A carta
of the letter.
como
The letter
aquele gênero
as
em que
a
ela
genre
mesma estabelece
in
nível
itself,
de
the
intimidade
letter
entre
itself,
o
is
remetente, o
about
destinatário,
intimacy
e que
between
não
who sends it and
normalmente
who receives it.
não sai do conhecimento dessas duas pessoas,
And
né?
these
É
are the
algo ali
only
que
two
estabelece
people
vínculo
aware of its contents. So it's a very
muito próximo,
intimate
somente entre essas duas
bond
pessoas. Então, acho
created
que o
by a
Raimundo
letter
também não
between
queria
two
que
people
essa
only.
intimidade dele com
So
Cícero,
Raimundo didn't
até
want
porque
his
depois que ele
intimacy
recebeu a
with
carta,
Cicero
ele
to be
ainda se
discovered by
escondia, ele
someone
não se
else.
aceitava.
After he
Então,
received
a
the
carta
letter,
poderia
he
conter ali
had not
elementos
come out yet.
dos
So
quais
the
ele ainda
letter
se
could
envergonharia.
contain elements
Então,
he
se
was
ele
ashamed
pedisse
of
alguém para ler,
himself. If he
essas,
asked someone to read the
essas
letter
coisas
for
viriam
him,
à tona e seriam conhecidas por outras pessoas.
these things might come up and
Então, entra
be
aí também a
known
vergonha
by other
de
people.
que eu
So he was
falei agora há
ashamed,
pouco.
as I said, as well.
E também eu acho que, em último lugar,
Finally,
talvez devêssemos dar um pouco de crédito ao Raimundo, né? De
I think we
que
should give Raimundo a little bit of credit,
ele, apesar de ter demorado tanto, ele sabia que em algum
in
momento ele
spite
iria
of taking
estudar
so long, he knew
e
that he
que
was
ele
going to
mesmo
school
iria
at
conseguir
some point,
desvendar o que tinha
and
naquela
he
carta,
would be
né?
able
E ele não
to
queria
somehow
dar
decipher the letter.
tirar isso dele
He
mesmo,
didn't
eu
want
acho.
to take this
E
pleasure
aí eu
away
já
from
entro
himself.
na segunda
And as to
pergunta que
your
você fez,
second question,
por que não mostrar o conteúdo da carta,
why
né?
not showing the content of the letter
Acredite,
in the
Dom,
book?
isso
Believe
foi
me, Don,
difícil para mim
it
também.
was a difficult choice for me. It was a
Em
difficult
determinado
decision.
momento da escrita, numa primeira
Um,
versão do livro,
when I was writing the
havia a
book in the
revelação do
first
conteúdo da
draft,
carta.
I did review the
Uma
content of
revelação,
the
né?
letter,
Eu
of a
escrevia
possible
lá o que
letter.
Cícero poderia ter dito,
I wrote something that
mas
Cicero
à medida
might
que o livro
have
foi passando por
written
algumas
for
leituras
him.
de outras
But after some
pessoas,
readings of the book, some other people
me
read the
foi
book,
levantada a questão
and some
de
people raised
que
this question.
a revelação do conteúdo da
Maybe
carta
revealing the content of the
era
letter
era de tal forma destrutiva,
it
sabe,
could be
para o
destructive
encerramento do arco do
somehow.
Raimundo, porque não
You
havia
know,
nada que pudesse ser
when I
feito,
finished
não importava o
Raimundo's
que que a carta
arc,
dissesse.
it
Já
didn't
haviam se
matter what the letter
passado já
said.
havia se passado 52
You
anos,
know,
54,
52
se a gente
years,
contar o momento
54
que ele
years
escreveu.
had gone by
E
since that first
o tempo não voltaria
encounter.
atrás, ele,
You know, the clock does not turn back.
não conseguiria encontrar Cícero,
He
nada
would not
poderia
be
ser
able to
feito,
find
além
Cicero.
do que
Nothing could be done.
também, qualquer que fosse o conteúdo,
And whatever
ele
the
não
content
atingiria
of the
a
letter,
expectativa de ninguém.
it would never
Então
meet the
haveria
reader's
sempre algum nível
expectations.
de frustração.
There would always be some level of
Ah,
frustration if the content of the letter was
e,
revealed.
muito
Well, but
sobre isso,
if
foi
I
que eu
can
decidi
just ask you,
realmente.
can ask you this one thing. If the contents of the letter said, I want to continue with you, let's run away, let's have a whole future together into the future from now. If the letter had said that, it would have preserved the beautiful memory he had of this early relationship. He would have found it still somehow intact and not destroyed or dirtied by some change in Cicero's thinking. Because remember, at one point in the novel, you have him imagining that Cicero might say, you know, I've decided I just want to get married, have children, and lead a very average, normal life where people won't condemn me. And so he worried that that possibly could have been Cicero's future. And if that had been in the letter, then it would have really ruined his sweet memory of the past. So those two differences would have affected his memory, and memory seems to be very important in your novel.
Can I just make a
Sim,
comment?
ela,
Sorry, Ilse said, I think that was a very wise choice. So vive la différence, no?
sim, Dom, as memórias são muito importantes.
Yes,
Eu acho
Dawn,
muito
memory
bonita
is an
essa sua
important
leitura
element
de
of the
uma
book. This is a
possível
very
carta
beautiful
do
idea of
Cícero,
yours, you know,
dizendo que
maybe
ele
a
gostaria
letter
de
of Cicero
continuar com
saying,
Raimundo e fugir com
yes,
Raimundo para
let's be
viver a vida
together.
com
Let's
ele.
run together.
Mas eu
Let's
penso
run
também, e
together.
talvez
Let's
aí,
live
exaltando a
together.
diferença, talvez de uma forma
And
mais
looking
pessimista, se ele se
at this
depara com
difference,
essa carta,
but if
né, com
he's
esse
faced
com
with a
Cícero se
letter
declarando para ele,
with Cicero, you
ele
know,
perceberia também
saying, I
que
still
foi
love
uma
you.
vida
I want to be with
vivida.
you.
Apesar de ele
Maybe he
manter
would
intacta
realize that was
essa
an
memória,
unlived
certamente
life.
ele já tinha,
He
né, do
had this memory
relacionamento dos
somehow
dois.
already. He had the
Então,
memory of
talvez
their
para ele
relationship.
ler
So
que
maybe,
o Cícero queria realmente
you know,
ficar com ele,
Cicero really if
eh,
Cicero wanted to be with
dava para
him
ele naquele momento ali em que ele já tinha
at
resolvido
that moment when he had already,
tantos outros
you
lados da
know,
vida, e
worked
naquele
out so
instante
many other
perceber que ele podia ter
stances
tido
of
uma
his
vida
life,
totalmente
you know, at that
diferente,
moment he could
eu
realize
acho
that he could
que
have had
traria
a completely different
encerramento
life.
muito
That
menos
for the end of the
cheio de
book, I
possibilidades para o
think it
Raimundo,
would
sabe?
be
Encerramento
less filled with possibilities
muito,
for Raimundo.
eu diria até mais
It would
sombrio
be
em
maybe
certa
even a
medida,
more
porque ele teria
somber
que
ending for
ele
Raimundo, I
teria
would
uma vida
say,
possível que
because, you know,
talvez
he
se ele tivesse
he
lido a
would
carta
see he
antes,
had
não
this
poderia ter
possible
vivido e não
life, and
vivido, e aí
if he
arrependimentos
had
e arrependimentos.
read the letter, he
E
would have
eu não
regretted
quis
it and regrets and
trazer
regrets.
isso
And
pro
I
final.
didn't
Eu
want to
escolhi
bring
então,
this to the end of the
né,
book.
nesse final que vocês leram,
In the
a última
version that
palavra
you
que
read,
existe.
the last word.
But the thing is, we know that he does find out what's in the letter. So that will have an effect on the character. But you don't let us know what the effect was on Raimundo.
Mas então eu te pergunto, será
But
que
I
ele
ask you
descobriu o que tem
then,
na carta?
did he really
São
find out what's in the
possibilidades,
letter? There are so
assim,
many
o final
possibilities.
realmente é bem aberto.
I think it's an open ending
Algumas
for the book.
pessoas
Some people
leem que ele não chegou
read
a
it
abrir
and
completamente
believe
a
that
carta.
he didn't
Algumas
open
pessoas
the letter
entendem que ele leu
completely.
a
Some people
carta.
understand that yes, he read the
Então
letter.
eu tô assumindo esse ponto
So
de vista de que ele
I
manteve
am
o
looking at this
conteúdo
perspective
guardado até
that
para ele mesmo.
maybe
é
the
por isso que eu
content was
falo que
preserved even
descobrir
from
qualquer que
himself.
fosse as versões
And, that's why I
seria muito
say
ruim para ele naquele
discovering
momento.
or finding
E só
out
para
could be
concluir,
terrible for him.
a
Just in
última palavra do
conclusion,
livro, nesse
the
final que
last
vocês
word
leram,
of the book,
é
of the
começo,
version that you read,
né?
is
E
beginning.
um senhor de 73 anos
It's a 70-year-old
encontrar
man, 71-year-old man,
começo a essa altura da vida,
finding a
eu acho que
beginning at this
traz
point
no
in
final
life.
muitas possibilidades
I think
e
it
muitos
creates
caminhos ainda
many
para ele, e
possibilities
eu
and
acho que é um
many
sinal
open
de muita
paths
força.
for him. And I think it's a very powerful sign.
I mean, as a fiction writer, I wouldn't have added the letter, and I didn't question it. I got to the ending, and Stênio told me that people get really mad, and then I've since been experiencing it. I think it's so funny. I never questioned it. I never doubted it. To me, it's the only thing that made sense. And I would have given the same advice. I also wouldn't have included it if it were my own book, because from a fictional point of view, you need the direction, right? You need some place to go towards. That's the journey, that you have the whole character development. The arrival is past the ending. Like, I had a fiction professor who always said this. He said, if you understand the truth about yourself and you keep going to a resolution, you're writing past the ending. So the truth is who he needed to be able to face his own identity. It wasn't actually about the letter at all. So I feel like it would have been too neat to then end with the letter, and that's my perspective. I think I would have been pissed off in that direction. It would have been too neat, and it would have been like you're expelling out to me the book I just read, the whole journey. I don't actually need, to see the destination. The train ride is the point, not the vacation you get at the end. It is Stênio's Capitu moment. That's a Machado de Assis reference for those of you who haven't read that. Yeah, so I love something like that. I think the artifact, it's almost like the object becomes bigger than life itself. The actual object is never gonna match, the anticipation of it. It would be disappointing no matter what the letter says. So I think it is I don't know how you could pull off actually showing the letter. It would have to be a hell of a letter. So as a fiction writer, I also wouldn't have included it. Yeah, for all those reasons.